I have successfully put the two children down to bed. And my algorithm is shit at the moment, so I said I would jump on and do a quick live. If you have a question, put it in the question box down there. And while I'm waiting on a few of them to come in, my latest podcast episode 20, is all about extra costs to consider when buying a home. I run through everything, stamp duty. Here's the thing about stamp duty that sometimes I get asked from a lot of people who are buying new builds. People buying new builds look at the property price register and they complain. They're like I paid 400 grand for mine, but my neighbor only paid 300. I can see in the price register my neighbor only paid 300 and something. The prices that you see on the property price register for new builds do not include VAT. And your stamp duty on a new build, you pay on the price of the house, excluding VAT. So if you buy a new build for, say, 400 grand, that includes the VAT, which I think is about 12.5% or something like that. So you take that off. So you don't pay 4 grand stamp duty, you pay 3,400 something. So that's something that people don't know that much about. Cost rental. I think cost rental in its original form, i.e. the Vienna model, is fantastic. It's based on the cost to build and to run. However, the Irish government thought that cost rental is fantastic and stole the name, but completely changed what it is. So the cost rental we have here is absolutely not based on the cost. It's based on market rents and a percentage below market rents. So that's why the cost rental here is ridiculous. So the Vienna model, look that up. If you Google it, you'll see it's a fantastic model, the cost rental model. But like most things, our government took it, kept the name, but completely changed what it is. And it's based off market rents, which are already extortionate. So it's not cost rental. They just stole that name, but that's not what it is. It's just market rate rental with a bit of a discount. Hi, Kieran. We had to change property number and need to do a new Help to Buy. Any experience of this? I do not. I didn't do the Help to Buy scheme, so I don't know a massive amount about it, to be honest. So sorry. There was another one there. The listeners' fees seem to be extortionate. They actually aren't. Our solicitors' fees are really quite low in comparison to other countries. And I believe that's a problem because the conveyancing fees, like it's a huge amount of work in conveyancing for the solicitor. They have to do months and months of work before they actually get paid. And our fees in Ireland are actually quite low. Like their professional fees are around 1,500 quid plus VAT for months of work. And I believe that's a problem. Because basically anything to do, if you're a solicitor, every other job you do will pay more than conveyancing. So every other job they do they're going to get more money. So I believe it puts the conveyancing kind of to the back of the queue in the solicitor's office. And I actually think they're too cheap, which I know is a bit of a shock to say, but I do think they're too cheap. And I think I think the margins are really low for solicitors in conveyancing. And I think if the margins were a bit better, then maybe they might do it a bit faster. What else? How, in your opinion, have the Grand Coalition got it so wrong in terms of housing? I think we are all very guilty of assuming that the government want prices to come down. And I think I'm guilty of that myself over the last few years. You kind of just assume they want housing to be more affordable for normal people. And I don't think they do. If you go by what Leo Bracker's comments come out are, and I had him on my podcast, like never do they say they want prices to come down because they're worried about people being in negative equity then. So they want people's wages to go up basically, so that people don't lose equity in their home, yet they're not willing to pay public sector people more, so it doesn't make any sense. So I think where they may not have got it wrong, but we maybe have got it wrong by assuming that they actually do want prices to come down when I don't think they do. What else? Love your content. Checking to see how long it takes to close a deal after going sale agreed. The uptake of title deeds seems to be slowing things down. There is no definite timeline. If it's not in probate or anything like that, if it's just deeds, should be okay within a few weeks. But I think the average time from sale agreed to keys in hand is around about 180 days, I believe. Next one, why is there no government body to help provide impartial advice on buying property? It's not covered by the consumer protections. Thankfully, you've got people like yourself. Yeah, buying a house is viewed as an investment. So it doesn't fall under the standard advertising guidelines. So, like if say I do a paid post, if I don't tag, which I do anyway, but I actually am shocked by how many people on Instagram do ads and don't tag it as paid. But let's say I didn't, which I do. But let's say I didn't, I know I'd get an email the next day from the ASAI. Whereas like estate agents can say a house is 20 square meters bigger than it actually is, and they can say it's in a completely different area and nothing happens. So it's not, they don't fall under the same rules as everything else. But I will say, in terms of being impartial, the ccpc.ie website is a fantastic resource. There's loads of info on there, and that is impartial. It's a government website, so do check that out. ccpc.ie. So ludicrous not having some form of regulation on estate agents. Bids here in Scotland are put through solicitors. Yeah, there is regulation, but it's not enforced. Like a lot of things in Ireland, it's a lack of enforcement rather than the regulations. They like to look at the whole rental market's a joke. Like, but there are laws there; they're just not enforced. I know there's loads of questions coming in on the comments there. I can't see them; they come in too fast. So put them into the little question box, and then I can put it up on the screen so everyone can see it. What are your thoughts on buying something that needs extensions, renovations for a first home buyer? Should this be left to handy people or builders? Seems so expensive to totally outsource. So that's what we did. We bought a fixer-upper. We completely gutted it back to the bricks. Basically, the only thing we didn't change on the house was the roof, which does need to be done at some point. But that's tomorrow's problem. But no, I wouldn't say avoid it. Like, I think we're so limited in supply that it's the only option for a lot of people. I will say you don't need to be that handy in terms of the strip out and the demolition and stuff. You'd be surprised at how easy that is. Like, you can get a house fairly bare quite easily. Strip and wallpaper, ripple up carpets. Even if there's just partition walls, you take them down with a sledgehammer. You don't need to be handy. Do not take down, or should I say, disclaimer, please don't take down a supporting wall. You need an engineer for that stuff. But, there is a lot of the demolition stuff. You could probably save yourself 10, 15 grand on the demo stuff by doing it yourself. And it's easy. All you need is time. But then, the rest you're going to need to pay a builder. So. But no, I definitely wouldn't avoid it, because very often those fixer-uppers are in really good locations and better locations than maybe, say, a new build. Is it hard to get a mortgage that include money to renovate? Yeah, so renovation mortgages do exist. They're quite difficult to get. They're kind of like a self-build mortgage, and it's kind of given to you in phases, in stages. They are quite tough to get, and you need to have costings, which are difficult to get as well. And you also need to prove that the house is going to be worth more when you're finished, so that the work you do adds to the value. I've done a post on it, but it's kind of saying 90% loan to value of the cost of the house and 90% loan to value of the cost of renovation. And it all needs to fall under what your total approval amount would be anyway. So it's we didn't do it. We were told we could get one, and then last minute they said no. So we only got the cost of the house. So we had to go to the credit union and got a loan from the credit union. Now, both being teachers, the teacher credit union is really easy to deal with. So I had like 50 grand in my account within 24 hours. I was like, this was way too easy. But the interest rates are a killer. So that's the issue with it. That's where renovation mortgage is a lot better, because you're paying probably half the interest. What percentage of your salary should be spent on mortgage repayment? The standard is around about 30% of your net take home should be spent, not your gross, your net. Around 30% of your net. That is what's deemed affordable. I do think one of the only good things to come out of the crash are more regulations on lenders, and that they're not allowing people borrow more than they're able to pay, because that was a disaster. Hey Desi, I am actually, my electrics we did a lot of things in the house that I'm really glad we did, like insulating in between the floors and stuff. But the electrics, I'm really glad we we did the finishes we did on the electrics, and Desi is the man for electrics. But if you need a job done, he's the man. But he might get to you by 2028. He's so busy. But yeah, like some of our electrics I look at and I'm like, that looks really good. Like we got the switches in the kitchen are stainless steel, like the isolation switches, and they're engraved with like dishwasher oven or whatever, and just looks really slick. And I remember putting a picture up on it, and Dermot Bannon replied with a picture of his isolation switches, and they're not as nice as mine. And he's like, "Oh, great! Now I hate my switches." So Dermot Bannon approved switches, but even like our sockets and stuff, some of our sockets are smart sockets. They're BG Electric. So Luseco, I think James is on there from Luseco, but they're BG Electric, and they're like kind of smart sockets, so you can control them from the phone. Really handy for the Christmas tree. So when we had the Christmas tree plugged in, I can control it from my phone. You can set it on a timer. You can do lamps on it and all. So yeah, our electrics are awesome, thankfully. Does being in a new job put mortgage approval at risk if higher earner hasn't changed? I don't know what you mean. Do you mean you've got mortgage approval and you've changed jobs? Yes, that can be a risk because you'd be on a probation period again. However, you might be okay if it's within the same industry or definitely within the same company. You might be all right, but definitely you need to talk to your lender about that. Been separated 15 years. Ex hasn't contributed since and won't cooperate or get a solicitor for TOT. That is out of my wheelhouse, to be honest. I haven't got a clue about any of that. Sorry. Sounds like a nightmare. Aside from speaking to our broker, couldn't find information anywhere about buying a second property and keeping the first as a rental. Podcast, maybe. Again, not anything I know, not something I know anything about. I think most people are lucky enough to even be able to own one property, let alone two. So yeah, I don't know. Good luck with that one. Is the payout rate for the Crecona grants still extremely low? It was less than 2% last I checked. They don't release the figures that often, though, not surprisingly. It's such a shit show. Any estimates on costs associated with planning applications? It's not too much. You have to put an ad in the local paper and then you have to do the thing. It's not that much. I can't remember how much ours was. We had to do planning for the driveway. It was a nightmare though, because someone around the corner appealed it on Borplan all. It took 14 months. Jeez, don't get me started on that. It's not that much, a few £100, I think. Is there a good book out there with a step-by-step on self-build? I don't know. There's a good Facebook group called Self-Build and Home Renovations or something, Ireland. And they've got like, I don't know, tens and tens of thousands of members in it. And that seems to have loads of really good info in there. And if you're in the Facebook group, I know it's Facebook, so it's shite, but anyway, if you're in the Facebook group, there is like a search function. And I guess any questions you have, someone else will have asked that already. I don't know whether they have a book or anything or whatever, but yeah, I don't know. Please don't put questions in the comments. I can't read them. Any advice on getting a mortgage from abroad? We're looking to try avoid applying when we arrive. Yeah, it's a 30% deposit, I think, and there are two lenders that do it. Own the Mortgage Guy literally just did a post about this last week on buying from abroad. So check out his page. He did a really good post on it. But as far as I know, there are a couple of lenders that will do it, but you need a higher deposit. If you were relocating for work and had to either sell or rent your property, what would you do? If you could hold on to it, like it depends if you plan on coming back. If you plan on coming back, then you're better off holding on to it and renting it out rather than selling it. But I don't know. That's up to you. Are there any big, obvious things that can go wrong after you get your loan offer? Yes. Don't take out a loan. Don't take out a car loan. Don't change your job. Don't do anything stupid. Just sit tight and hold on. But then on the other side, until contracts are signed by both parties, the sale can fall through at any time. Do you think certain brokers will try to sway you towards specific banks as they get better commission from that bank? No, I think that's a bit of a myth. They tend to get the same commission from all lenders, I believe. But I do think that's a bit of a myth. I think what brokers will do is they'll try to sway you towards the lender that will suit you better. And the lender that they know has maybe a better timeline in terms of turnaround and stuff. I think for the most part, brokers are really great and really honest. And I don't think they would be swaying you towards a certain lender. I know a lot of them will be pushing you toward. I just think brokers are like, they're there to help you. They're not like a goalkeeper trying to stop you scoring. They're like somebody trying to pass you the ball at the line to score, if you get me. Because like they're putting in a lot of work before they get paid. Like if someone went on Dragon's Den, right, and was like, look, here's my business idea. I'm going to start a business and we're going to help people get mortgages. We're going to put in about 18 months work. And at the end of it, we're going to get 1% off the price of the house. Like the Dragons would look at you going, you're absolutely crazy. You're talking about doing 18 months work for free. So I think that in the whole buying process, I'm a big believer in mortgage brokers. I think for the most part, they're brilliant. So I don't think they'd be swaying you towards a certain one. Does it matter where your deposit comes from? As in, does it have to be split? It can my partner front the full mortgage, full deposit, and then we both pay the mortgage. Now, once you have the money there, it's fine. If it's a gift, you may need to get a letter saying it was a gift, but it doesn't matter who saved more. That's more important for your repayment capacity, your 6 month statements and all that. But if you have a lump sum, you have a lump sum. The first home scheme, I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of that or the Help to Buy scheme because of the overall macroeconomic, as a overall macroeconomic policy. It's fueling demand without doing anything to supply. So it's just going to, it's increasing people's buying power, spending power, which is all that does is increase house prices. So I don't agree with it as a policy, but they're in place. So if you find they help you or they're worthwhile for you, then by all means go ahead. But I just think as an overall policy, they're not very good. And I know we copied and pasted them from the UK and they've been heavily criticised over in the UK, both of them, by experts over there and economists. And even the ESRI over here have been very critical of the first home scheme. So it's not like my opinion. It's, an expert's opinion. Just because of the whole overall macroeconomic issues, it doesn't do anything to improve supply and it just increases demand, which increases prices. Would you be willing to share about the amount you spent on garden renovations? Our garden is very, very small and it was around 10.5 grand. And then the shed was about 2 grand and that's a small garden. So if you're looking at getting your garden done, I would definitely, if you have a normal size garden, you're probably looking at 20 grand. I would say it's insane money. But yeah, ours is around 10 plus the 10.5 plus the shed. Yeah, it's very expensive. Is there anywhere that you can go where there's a list of all the grants available for first time buyers? Yeah, my book. There's only really, there's just the first home scheme and the Help to Buy scheme. That's it really in terms of first time buyers. In terms of grants, then you have SEI grants, but that's nothing to do with first time buyers. Then you have your Vacant and derelict, the pre-Conaghan stuff. They're a nightmare though. So it's really just, the Help to Buy in the first home scheme. But I don't know if you can hear the washing machine in the background. Sorry. If you were the Minister for Housing tomorrow, what 3 things would you change? I would bring in a very hefty vacant home tax. I would ban investment funds from buying existing homes. Whatever about if they're pre-funding new builds, that's fine. Let them build. That's new supply. That's great. But the homes that are already built, I would ban them from buying them. And I would ban entire homes that are habitable and suitable as a home on Airbnb, and put Airbnb back to what it was intended, which was, renting out your spare room, or if you've got like a little log cabin out the back or whatever, that's all fine. But I don't think entire homes should be allowed to be on Airbnb, like they've done in other cities, and it's been quite successful. I'm not saying ban Airbnb altogether. I just mean like say we left our house and we just put our house on Airbnb as an entire home. I don't think that should be allowed. That's what I would do anyway, off the top of my head. How long on average does it take to get AIP? I think Avant are doing like a 3-day turnaround at the moment. So I think they're the fastest. But they're doing this thing where basically it's not underwritten. But definitely talk to a broker. Finance Solutions are my trusted broker. I'm collaborating with them this year. On the mortgage guy, he has loads of stuff on all that. He's brilliant. But I think Avant are the fastest. It's around 3 days. But I think they have service level agreements that are supposed to be 2 weeks maximum. But who knows? Can you hear that washing machine? I don't know. Why do you think there are no schemes for second-hand homes? There generally houses that need more money put into them versus new builds. Doesn't make sense. Okay, so good question. So if they did extend those schemes to existing homes, all that would do is increase the price of those existing homes literally overnight. That's what it's done to new builds. So when they extended the new builds, I've it all documented on my page and my highlights. But when they extended the new builds, literally new builds went up overnight by 10, 20, 30 grand. Because that's what it does. It's a demand side scheme. So giving more grants and doing all that are all just increasing buying power, spending power when supply is catastrophically low there, Sparkle. So what would happen is if they extended those things to existing homes, it would just up the prices again even more. So I think it's a terrible idea. Can you get 50,000 for a vacant property grant along with your mortgage? No, you get it. No, you only get it after the works. So you do the works. You have to fund the works up front, and then you get the 50 grand back, which I think is poorly targeted, because if you have the 50 grand to do the works, then you don't need the 50 grand grant. Do you know what I mean? So no, you don't get it with your mortgage. Do you recommend figuring out how to do small jobs around the house yourself? Yes, absolutely. You can learn anything on YouTube. You can learn to service your car on YouTube. You can learn to build a fucking house on YouTube. It's amazing. We live in a time where literally every piece of information that humans have ever gathered is at the end of your thumb on your phone. You can learn fucking anything. It's amazing. You can learn a language if you want. It's incredible when you think about it. So definitely, like, small jobs, like what? Don't do electrics. Just don't do electrics. And depends on the plumbing. Do you know what I mean? But there are, like, you can easily move a toilet. Like, moving a toilet is easy. You know, you don't need a plumber for that, or taking out a toilet, putting a new one in, or, you know, there are things you can do yourself. And they tend to be a lot easier than you think. YouTube is your friend. Just don't do electrics. So you have to wait for the vacant house grant after you pay the money for it. Yes. Recently divorced, looking to purchase a second family home. Can I use the equity in the first? I don't know. I don't know. You need to talk to a broker about that. Yes, we did the SEAI grants. We used the one-stop shop. It was a couple of years ago now, but I know their prices have just gone up and up and up. It's so the benefit of using the one-stop shop is they look after all the paperwork and they pay. So you're only paying them after the grants. So you don't have to pay them and then get the grants back. They have to have a certain amount of capital so that they can pay, and then you only pay them the price excluding the grants or including the grants. So that's the benefit of using a one-stop shop. Whereas if you're doing it, say, the individual grants yourself, then you pay and then you reclaim the money back. So that's the benefit of using a one-stop shop. It's just getting one that's available is going to be your problem, and then just the prices are outrageous. Loads of questions about the vacant property scheme. I think I'm over talking about it, to be honest. What kind of salary multiples are banks offering at the moment? How does commission bonus come into the equation? Different lenders will treat commissions and bonuses differently, so that will depend on them. And then the standard lending is maximum 3.5 times your income if you're a subsequent time buyer, and 4 times your income if you're a first time buyer. That's maximum. If you have other outgoings, if you have children, childcare fees, if you have a big car loan, things like that are going to decrease your repayment capacity. So you're not guaranteed to get 3.5 or 4 times. That's the maximum you can get. Things to consider when buying sites subject to planning. Haven't a clue. I don't know anything about self builds. I don't know anything about buying sites. Sorry. What are the months that it would be most popular to list properties? I think it's kind of now January, February, March, and then I think it only really slows down a little bit in the summer months and around Christmas. From talking to estate agents in the past, I believe that's when it quietens down. People are away over the summer, obviously, and then people are so busy around Christmas. Nobody's, you know yourself, nobody really works around Christmas. So I think it goes a bit quieter then, but the rest of the time, I think it's fairly standard. How easy is it to switch lenders from the one you got AIP with, AIP, or the one you drew down with? Maybe ask that question again. AIP, like, you can get AIP from multiple lenders at once. If you mean switching your mortgage, as in you have a mortgage, what do you mean? Oh, this is a big one. deciding whether or not to get set. My throat is sore from talking. Can you all see that instead of me reading it out? Don't know what the question is. Secondhand house or an apartment. Personally, I would always go for a house over an apartment. Just legacy issues with how apartments were built here. They're not great, paper walls and all that. Management fees, management companies going bust. They can just be a bit of a nightmare. Personally, I'd just go for a house, and then obviously when there is a housing crash, which there always is, they're cyclical. I do think apartments lose their value a lot more than houses. So that's just my personal opinion. I'm about to get a mortgage application approved, but I had to change my job. Do I need to wait full 6 months prior? It depends. If you're within the same industry or within the same company, you might be all right. But if you aren't, then yeah, you maybe have a 6 month probation period there. If I lost a job just after getting first home and struggle to get a new job, what do you recommend? Well, I don't know. I'm sorry you lost your job. Yeah, definitely try to get a new one as quick as you can. It's one of the positives of the way things are now is places are crying out for staff. They can't get staff, so there are loads of jobs everywhere. But I don't know what your question is there. If selling a family home and buying another home, what hidden costs, taxes are there to pay? Solicitors' fees, agent fees. If it's your primary residence, then you don't have to pay capital acquisition tax. If it isn't, if you're selling a second home or whatever, then you will. But there shouldn't be any taxes if it's your primary residence. What happens on the date of closure drawdown? Sellers has movers scheduled for the same day. Yeah, it's rare that happens nowadays. That you can buy and sell on the same day. Is that what you mean? Closure and drawdown. Seller has movers scheduled for the same day. I don't know. Sorry, I don't understand the question. I'm very tired and my throat is sore. Really worried about bidding wars as our budget is 252. Yeah, like they're a pain in the arse. Like bidding wars have been going on for years. That's why we bought our house privately. Obviously it's not possible for everyone, but I'm sure you all know by now if you follow me a while. Like we just dropped letters indoors and we bought privately from a family. It's feckin' incredible. It was it was such a nice experience. No estate agents, no bidding wars. They got a good deal. We got a good deal. Got to chat to them. Got to listen to their stories about growing up in the house. The house 100 years old. It's been in their family for all that time. It was gorgeous. It was amazing. So if you can buy off market, do drop letters in everywhere. That's the only way to get around the bidding wars. Speaking of letters, any use in writing a letter to the seller to maybe see if they would accept a lower offer? I mean, I don't recommend this because my letter trick that I came up with was for buying off market. So getting there before the estate agents. If somebody has the house with an estate agent, it's quite an invasive thing getting a letter in the door. And if you're bidding on a house and whatever, it's not something I recommend because you could piss off the seller, you could piss off the estate agent. Now, in saying that, I know thousands of people have done it and it has worked for them. And that's great. I just think it's a risk and look, we're all adults here. It's your choice if you want to do that. It's just, I don't know, personally, would I do it? But then, it's dog eat dog out there and you got to do what you got to do to try to get a house. What do you think of credit union mortgages in comparison to banks? I think they're probably easier to deal with, but I think their interest rates are a little bit higher. But I'm a big fan of credit unions in general. I think they're awesome. Who pays the mortgage broker's commission, us or the bank that wins the business? Yeah, most mortgage brokers don't charge a fee. Some do, and I think that's fine also because they're putting a lot of work in for free. But most of them don't charge a fee and they get their fee. It's usually, I believe, 1%. I don't know. But they get their fee from the lender at the end of it all. So they're putting in 18 months of work, sometimes 2 years, even longer, before they get paid. So it's mad. So big up the mortgage brokers. Please don't put questions in the comments because I can't see them. Use the little question box down the bottom because I know there's loads of questions put in there that I can't see them. Can't afford a new build, deciding to buy a house this year or next year, but also not happy in the current job. Yeah, there's a kind of like the new build thing. If you can't afford a new build, you can't afford an old build either. Like we were the same. Like I know that the older houses appear to be less, can often cost less than a new build, but then they're also the extra money it would require to get them up to an A rating is probably going to be more than what the new build would have cost. But usually the benefit is you're buying in a more established community or in a better location, so it's worth the trade off. For us, it was anyway. But also like the new builds, there just weren't. No, we're in the city centre, so there were no new builds. I don't think house prices are going to drop soon because there are no houses to buy, unfortunately. Everyone is fighting over the existing stock. There is very few new homes available for people to buy, whether it's in Dublin or nationwide. Very, very few. So you hear this figure about 30,000 homes being built every year. Um, I only have figures for 2022, and it was like 8,300 of those 30,000 were actually available for a URI to buy. So that meant whatever the 21,500 homes were either bought by funds or built to rent or bought by the state. So it's very few are available to buy. So that means everybody's fighting over existing stock, and that's why prices keep going up. Mortgage approved since February 1st. Everything is going way over the asking. It's ridiculous. Yes, I look at my previous reel on this. Nationwide, it was about 2.9% over, a bit more than that in Dublin. Not everything goes way over asking though. Don't fall for that hype. It's some estate agents just have a tactic where they have, even though it's against their code of practice, they have a tactic where they would purposely advertise a house for 150 grand less than what it's actually worth. That means then they can go to the next vendor and say, well, look, we always sell our houses at X over asking. It's just a ploy to get more people involved in the bidding process, in a bidding war. It's against their code of practice. They shouldn't be doing that, but a lot of them are. And if you're in around Dublin 8 and Dublin 12, you know, there's one that's relentless for it. But it is against their code of practice. They shouldn't be doing that, but they get it. Like everything in property in Ireland, they can basically do whatever they want. They can get away with it. Right, I'm gonna stop now in a minute. I think, oh, feck, Milo's waking up. Want to renovate and extend all college at home in the West when my job is in Kildare and move home. Yeah, you may not get a mortgage if you're really far away from where you're buying. The reason for this is commuting, travel times, extra costs of commuting, all of that. Banks just don't like it. I think they want you to be within a certain, like whatever, an hour and a half of the home. Different lenders have different criteria on this, but yeah, you may struggle to buy a house on the other side of the country with 90%. Maybe if it's like, you know, 70, I think it might depend on the loan value or whatever, or if you're buying it as a holiday home or something. Someone asked me this already. The first thing I would do anyway would be tackling vacant homes, because we need to get more supply. That's the emergency part of it, is getting more supply as quick as we can. And if there are 165,000 habitable vacant homes around the country, imagine putting a tax on them, and even getting, I say, even if they just announce there's going to be a tax without actually taxing it, but just say in 12 months' time, you're going to have to pay 10% of the value of that home. We're giving you 12 months warning, so sort your shit out. Get somebody in it, get it rented, get it fixed up, or else sell it. But in a year's time, you're going to be paying 10%. And even that alone, without having to actually tax anyone, I think we would see tens of thousands of homes come on the market overnight. And I think that would be the first thing I would do. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there because it's getting late. Mel's coming home now, and Milo might be waking up. Anyway, thanks. My throat was sore from talking. So thanks for all the questions. Hope you have a lovely week.